Hey everybody, I'm Michelle Roy of Dragonfly Wellness, and this is Wellness Wednesday. Today is the final segment in a multi-part video series that I've been offering on the 8 limbs. So we've covered all the 8 limbs, and today we're just going to do a quick review and put it all together and appreciate how these limbs all work together, and also appreciate how they move from a gross to a more subtle expression. We're going to get into that in just a moment. And then I'd also like to compare that to other Eastern philosophies and how they also move across that same spectrum. We're not going to get into a lot of them, but just take one for comparison here. So to review the limbs, we have the yamas and the niyamas. Way back in the beginning, we covered those. The yamas and the niyamas are the moral restraints and the social observances. They're the things they're the ways we conduct ourselves in the physical world. So these very much relate to the physical world. And just quick review of those, because there are several, right? So the 5 of each. The yamas start with ahimsa. That's the first very guiding value of yoga. Ahimsa, non-harming, do no harm, all right? Then we have satya, we tell the truth. Asteya, don't steal. Brahmacharya is the right use of energy. And aparigraha, non-clinging. So we don't cling, we don't covet. On the other side, the niyamas, the social observances, we start with saucha. Saucha is purity, cleanliness, orderliness. Refers also to what we put in the body and the mind. Santosha, being content. Being content in spite of external circumstances, right? This is finding an inner contentment, not being content because everything outside of us is the way we want it to be, right? Tapas is the fiery will. It's discipline, austerity, right? And again, it's like keeping that ember burning, but not letting it burn out of control, burning the candle at both ends kind of thing. Svadhyaya is self-study. It's reading these theories, reading these philosophies, and then figuring out how to apply it in your daily life. And then finally we have Ishvara Pranidhana, surrender to the divine, the universe, a higher power, God, whatever word you want to use there. But just surrendering, recognizing there's very little in our control, in our direct control. And when we can kind of let go of that and surrender to the pacing of our lives, right? It's a little easier to get along that way, right? So those are the first 2 limbs. And then we have asana, seat, not this kind of seat, but a yogic seat, right? Like a meditation posture, for instance. And seat also, asana also refers to the physical poses. It's the physical practice of yoga. And we do that practice to prepare the body for sitting, right? So, and the poses in Sanskrit all end in asana. So Tadasana, Vrikshasana, Trikonasana, it's referring to that pose. And this, as I said in that video for asana, also refers to the different seats that we take in life. And applying these limbs when we take those seats as well. Then we have pranayama, breathing practice, pratyahara, withdrawing the senses, dharana, concentration, dhyana, meditation, and finally samadhi, bliss. And this isn't, the bliss is not like an exuberant joy, right, that we would experience here in the earth plane. This is more of a harmony, a peacefulness, a tranquility that we experience when all things are in balance, when we've got all those limbs happening at the same time. Even if it's just for a moment, we experience that divine bliss. All right, so you see how the limbs kind of move from a gross to a subtle expression. We start with these, agreements to how we should conduct ourselves in the world. We start with preparing the physical body for asana, for movement, for sitting. And then we move into the more subtle things, right? Right there at pranayama, we start working with the breath. And then we move into withdrawing the senses, working on our concentration, which ultimately becomes meditation. And again, that experience of bliss as all things happen equally, right? Things are in balance. So let's compare that to something that maybe people are a little more familiar with, which is the chakra system. Now, this is the Hindu chakra system. There are other chakra systems, which we will not get into today. We're going to work with this one because it's the one most people are familiar with. And it also moves from gross to subtle expressions. Now, it should be said, the chakra systems are multi-layered things. They're complex. They can't be boiled down to just a couple of things, these energy centers in the body. However, we're going to just touch on a couple aspects of it just for our purposes today, right? So we start with the root chakra, Muladhara chakra. Muladhara chakra is the root, as I said. It relates to the earth element and the color red. We're going to keep it there for now. And again, very much about the physical world. The root chakra is all about survival and sustenance, that kind of being able to survive in the world is very much where that is, and everything that goes along with that. Then we move up to Svadhisthana chakra, which is the sacral chakra, and it's associated with, it's in the bowl of the pelvis, associated with the color orange and the water element. It's the seat of our creativity, our connection, relationship. Then we move up to the solar plexus chakra, Manipura chakra. This chakra is associated with the element of fire and the color yellow. This is again the seat of the self. It's the home of our fiery will. Tapas lives here. It's also where our digestive fire occurs, right? So very much a place of fire here. Then we move up to the heart, Anahata chakra. The color green, the element is air. Of course it's air, it's the heart, it's the lungs. And it's again, right here at air, right here at breath. This is where it starts to shift. All right, then we move up to the throat chakra, Vishuddha chakra. Its color is blue, and the element here is ether, right? So we start to move out of those physical elements, right? And ether is like the container of all the other elements, the ethos, what's in our ethos, right? That's what we have here. It's a place of expression. The third eye, Ajna chakra, associated with color indigo, sometimes violet, and this is the seat of our intuition. No element here. No element here. It's the place of inner knowing, right? And it's actually kind of, we picture it here in the third eye, but it's really kind of deep behind the eyes in the center of the brain. Then we have the very crown of the head, Sarasvaha chakra, and this is associated with the color violet, or sometimes no color, like it could be crystal or gold or silver or something like that, whatever resonates with you. And again, this is not associated with an element, or and I already told you the colors, but this is where we connect to something bigger. This is where people are like, oh, you got to be open to the possibilities, right? As babies, we're born with the fontanelle, right? That soft spot. That's your crown chakra. We come in with the crown chakra open, and then over time, those skull bones fuse together. But even then, there's movement in those sutural joints, right? They're flat bones that are connected by these sutures of connective tissue. But even then, there's a little bit of movement. It's not fused shut, right? We should want that movement in the scalp, in the skull. But that is where we remain open, right, to guidance from whatever, something bigger. And so again, we've moved from this gross, physical, earthly experience up to something completely ethereal. And the beautiful thing, the thing I want you to notice here, is where that shift happens. So taking the chakras, for instance, it happens at the heart. The heart is the great meeting place of the lower chakras and the upper chakras. They're in that airy center where we take in our prana, the air. And we need this prana. Our prana, capital P, the life energy, comes in with this air, prana, right? It's the same thing in our limbs. When we get to pranayama, the breathing practice, that's where it shifts. And we move into concentration, meditation, and this easy bliss, right? Again, kind of like our crown chakra, just opened up to where everything is in balance, and we're in touch with something even bigger. That all shifts right here with the prana. The prana, the air. Think about, we've talked about this in other videos, right? We can go without food for quite a while. We can go without water for several days. You cannot go without air very long at all, mere minutes. And that is because this prana that we bring in via the air is the prana, the life energy that animates this body. If this body no longer receives air, then it will cease to be animated, right? We will talk in another video about what happens to that energy that no longer animates this body. But I want to illustrate the point that the prana, that prana is the great meeting place between gross and subtle. And we witness this in the world too, when the veil between the worlds gets thin at sunrise and sunset. We even have a name for it. We call it golden hour, right? The light is just magical at that time, at those times of day. And that's when we can almost see the prana around us and experience that bridging of gross to subtle, physical to ethereal. So there's your inspiration, everybody. I invite you to see how this gross moves to subtle in the world around you. I'll give you a couple of examples. One might be a guitar or any instrument that you're learning to play, but we're going to take the guitar. At first you learn chords, just individual chords. And after you learn a few chords, you can kind of string them together and make some, something that resembles more of a song. We follow along on music. And then after you get comfortable with the music, you add a little bit of rhythm, and then it becomes this song. You take those chords and that music and you put it together in your own expression. And that is a very subtle thing that happens only from you. Same thing with words, right? We learn individual letters, and then we gradually put those letters together and make words. And we put those words together and make sentences. And then we take those sentences and create our own expression. If you're a teacher, it's your prose, or you're a poet, if you're a poet, right? That becomes your expression, right? We take this, the building blocks. And then once we have those, then we can make it our own expression. And that's what happens in this gross to subtle. It's in the world all around you. I encourage you to look for it and see it and recognize it and witness it. There we get back to that witness consciousness where we step back and see this ethereal magic that's woven into the fabric of the world around us. Give it your notice. It's worth noticing the tiny miracles around us. All right, everybody, again, that's your inspiration today. Have a fantastic Wednesday, and I'll be back again next week with a new topic. Namaste.